Good morning, little nerds. It is 10 a.m. It is time to get your asses out of bed and get your pens and papers ready, because if the thought of summer is freaking you out and you are stressing out about having to put on a bathing suit in front of strangers on a beach, or worse, putting on shorts to live your life because it is way too hot outside, because cellulite and stretch marks are holding you back, this video is for you. Who the hell am I? I am Dr. Shereene Idriss. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. I am based in New York City and I see patients Monday through Friday. And I figured this video was extremely timely because you guys voted on Instagram, wanted to hear more about cellulite and stretch marks. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, subscribe below, like the video, and why not let me know what you want to learn more about. But next week's video is going to be a sunscreen roundup for your skin and your environment, and the best sunscreen for your lifestyle. So if there is a sunscreen that you absolutely love and you want me to review, drop it below so I can scramble this week to find it so I can review it for you next Saturday. So jumping into stretch marks and cellulite, I just want to preface this video by saying the goal, yes, is always to love yourself fully, holistically, from top to bottom. And cellulite / stretch marks are completely normal. It is not a disease. It is not an abnormality. It is something that happens basically to almost everybody, all right? And so I want you guys to go into this video knowing that and not fearing it, but being empowered by the tools at our disposal to help to minimize their appearance if they bother you. But guess what? You love your cellulite, you love your stretch marks, God bless. And hopefully this will be the end of the video for you. So, starting with stretch marks. Stretch marks are a type of scarring that appear on the skin. Yes, a stretch mark is a type of scar. The medical term for stretch marks is stria, S-T-R-I-A-E, I believe. I never won the spelling bee bumblebee situation, but I'm just saying that is the medical term. And basically it occurs when skin is stretched way too rapidly to accommodate for the growth or for the weight gain or even certain hormonal changes. And therefore the collagen and the elastin breaks down and you get the appearance of a stretch mark. It usually starts off as red, and that's when the inflammatory process is kicking in, trying to keep up with it, making sure that something is happening instead of a wound or a cut or an open sore, right? Eventually the stretch marks turn white. And once they are white, it's a good indication that they are rather old and have been there for a while. Some people, by the way, are just genetically blessed and predisposed to developing them. So when you look around your family members and you see your biological family members have stretch marks, know that you might also develop them too. Common areas where you get them. The boobs. Yes, the boobs. So many boobs have stretch marks. It's absolutely normal. Because of puberty, boobs come in fast for some. There are fluctuations in life with your breasts, whether it's in your late 20s, pregnancy, lactating. I was going to say lactation. Lactating, that was a nightmare for me. It was a pure nightmare for me. I don't know about you, but we can talk about that another day, i.e. breastfeeding. Menopause, you name it. So the boobs are a very common area. Around the abdomen, your butt, your outer thighs, even your outer arms. All of these areas can develop stretch marks, okay? Moving on to cellulite. Cellulite is very much a normal anatomic variation when it comes to you and your skin. Cellulite happens when you have fibrous bands pulling the surface of the skin down, and the fat cells between the fibrous bands start to bulge and you get dimpling on the surface of the skin. So take this fork, for example. Imagine this fork was glued to my hand. The top part of the fork is where the dimple appears, and that's how you see the cellulitic dimple from the top or from the side. This part is the fibrous band that's underneath the surface of the skin. Cellulite is pushing down. The fibrous band is pulling down, causing the skin to dimple on the top. The only way you can ever treat cellulite is by breaking the band. Breaking this part. Oh, that's some crazy plastic. Breaking this part so that the fork can pop up, okay? Anyway, that is basically how you break the band and causes the cellulitic dimple to pop up onto the surface of the skin. Why do people develop cellulite? It's because of many different things. Genetics plays a huge role. It's multifactorial, but genetics plays a huge role. Poor blood circulation, poor lymphatic circulation can also further enhance the appearance of cellulite superficially. A sedentary lifestyle, if you're not moving and fluid is pooling, your dimples are going to appear much more prominent. And certain even diet and lifestyle factors like soda, high sodium diets, all of that stuff can make it much worse. But I just don't want you guys to be fooled or feel bad about yourselves when you look at celebs and influencers or whoever it is online who's showing their tush, because more often than not, cellulite is there, but they figured out ways to mask it or to Photoshop themselves. But really, probably Photoshop themselves, because you can mask it to a certain extent, but your butt will never be as smooth or as round as a peach's like contour. Okay, so let's cut straight into in-office treatments, because while skincare and at-home hacks can be helpful, they can only do so much. So I'm going to go in first with the extreme, and then we're going to pair it back to at home. I want to first say that treating stretch marks and cellulite is a journey. It is not a one-hit wonder. It's not going to happen with just one treatment. It is not going to happen in a single month. It is going to take time to do this. So there is no instant gratification when it comes to treating stretch marks or cellulite. I also want to say that there is a machine on the market known as Cool Sculpt that freezes fat. Getting rid of your fat is never going to get rid of your cellulite. But before we fully jump into that, let's talk about stretch marks. When you're looking at your stretch marks, your skin tone really matters depending on how dark you are or how fair you are. And the tone of the stretch mark is super important, because when you get a stretch mark when it is red, you want to ideally treat it in that phase in order to minimize how big it gets, how wide it gets, and minimize the risk of it turning darker brown in the form of post-inflammation, hyperpigmentation, or really white. So when a stretch mark is red, that means it is relatively new and you want to laser it. And the gold standard to treating stretch marks with a laser is with the pulse dye laser, also known as the V for vascular, beam for laser beam. The V-beam does target that redness, and it can cause those superficial blood vessels to collapse and ideally, hopefully, minimize that from expanding over time. When you're looking at the stretch mark, it's also super important that you look at the texture of the stretch mark. If you look on the side angle of your skin, do you see the stretch mark divot in, or is it relatively flush with the surface of your skin? If there is a textural divot to the stretch mark, you want to try to stimulate the collagen there. How can we stimulate the collagen there? When it comes to devices, you can either do microneedling. You can do microneedling with radio frequency heat, which is my preferred way to address stretch marks in combination with everything else. And then you can also even do certain types of lasers like Fraxel, non-ablative Fraxels within the 1550 setting that is targeting water and collagen and fibroblasts to produce more collagen. So we have different things that we can use in order to target the texture of your scar. But when you're thinking about stimulating, really going inside the stretch mark to picking it up and allowing that volume to really come back to life, you probably want to use a needle and go and inject underneath the surface of the skin. And things you can inject your stretch marks with that can be very helpful are, for example, PRP, when we take your blood and we spin it, and it has a lot of growth factors in it. Now, not everybody's a good candidate because not everybody necessarily responds, but if this treatment were free, I would tell you for sure, give it a try. Try 3 treatments in a row to see if you see a difference. And if you see a difference, we have your own fertilizer that we can go back in with to hopefully stimulate your own collagen slowly over time. And PRP is one of those things that you can use as an adjunct to microneedling with radiofrequency heat, or even a Fraxel to really boost that treatment, allowing your skin to heal more efficiently and allowing your stretch marks to heal in better. Now, if you don't want to do PRP because you don't want to take that financial gamble, because at the end of the day, it is your own blood that we are spinning to see if you can stimulate yourself, things that are tried and true are things like Sculptra. Sculptra is known as poly-L-lactic acid. You can also inject it into wider stretch marks to see if it can help stimulate your own collagen production as well. And it has been shown to be somewhat helpful if it helps to stimulate the divot and the textural part of your scar. And last, you can even inject certain types of fillers, but they have to be very lightweight fillers, not heavy fillers, because the lighter weight fillers hopefully will not leave any bluish hue to the surface of your skin, given that the skin is thinner within your stretch mark. When your stretch mark is really white, let's just say now you want to target just the whiteness of your stretch mark and you do not have any sort of textural issues, but it's just really white. What can you do? An interesting option available to you is utilizing microneedling, right, with Latisse. Latisse is also known as bimatoprost. It is primarily used to treat glaucoma for the eyes, but also you've probably heard about it for eyelash growth. I have done this on a few patients who have had white scars where we did microneedling with Latisse. And the thought process there is that Latisse also does stimulate your melanocytes to form melanin so that the scar can repigment itself. The same can be told for your stretch marks. And so by using microneedling and Latisse, several treatments and over several sessions, you can help repigment the skin there to hopefully minimize the appearance of the whiteness of your stretch mark. Here is a short, small before and after that I did on Tiffany's scar on her arm. How I took the scar from this to that in less than a month. You may have heard of Latisse and may think that it's only good for your eyelashes or for glaucoma, but some research suggests that it may have the potential for repigmentation, and we're not exactly sure how, but we think it works by stimulating the melanocytes, the cells in your skin responsible for producing skin pigment. Ding, 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 ding. So when this case presented itself, I thought, why not, given that the risk was so low? So I started by making tiny little holes on her scar, essentially microneedling the area before applying any Latisse, giving it a good rub in, and then covering it with a silicone gel sheet, not only to help it heal faster, but also to minimize any risk of any keloids. We treated the session over the course of a month every week, and we kept the scar covered with a silicone gel sheet and away from the sun. And this is what it looks like today. Now, the last option that you have when a scar is really white is getting it tattooed. Tattooing it to the same tone as your skin. And yes, this is not a treatment, it is completely a camouflage, but you know what? If it helps you get over its appearance, I have patients who have tried this and they've been very happy with it. The only advice I have when it comes to tattooing is test spot it first, do a small area, live with it for a while, see how you feel before you go wild and tattoo a large body surface area. Tattoo a small area first to make sure that you're tolerating it, there's no adverse reactions, etc., etc., etc. Okay, when it comes to cellulite, however, it is not so simple because like we talked about, cellulite is about thickened fibrous bands pulling the surface of the skin down and the fat cells in between the fibrous bands getting bigger and popping, and therefore you seeing the dimpling on the surface of the skin. Before we get into treatment options, I just want to preface this by saying CoolSculpt is not a treatment for cellulite. Getting rid of fat is not a treatment for cellulite. And liposuction is not a treatment for cellulite. Because when you get rid of the fat, you're not dealing with the fibrous bands, and you're still going to have, to a certain degree, cellulite present. So please, if you've ever been marketed CoolSculpt, and somebody asked me this question this week while I was on a panel, if CoolSculpt will help their cellulite, the answer is a hard no. And quite frankly, I am not a fan of CoolSculpt. That could be another video for another day. But what are ways then that we have historically treated cellulite? The most simple way to treat cellulite in office is by taking a very large needle, going underneath the surface of the skin, and breaking that band up. This is also known as subcision, and that is probably the most definitive way of treating your cellulite, but it comes with swelling and bruising. And a few years ago, probably 7 years ago, there was a device known as Cellfina that suctioned your cellulitic dimple into a little cup and allowed us to then insert the needle into a certain plane to break up the fibrous band. And they were claiming that this could be a lunchtime procedure. I think they went too wrong and strong with that marketing, that people were not expecting bruising at all with it, but obviously they bruised with it, and so the company went under. But it was not a bad device, it just overcomplicated a very simple procedure. Fast forward to like 2018, 2019, Quo came to the market. Quo was an injectable that we would inject into a cellulitic dimple that would break up the fibrous band through an enzymatic breakdown with collagenase. Collagenase would break down the collagen that's causing this fibrous band to pull down, etc. But same thing, they went too wrong and strong in the marketing, and people thought, oh, I'm just gonna get a few injections, but their whole backside would be black and blue. Of course it would, because you're causing tissue to break, you're going to get inflammation, you're going to get swelling, and you're going to get bruising. So that company unfortunately went under too. So those two companies are no longer really around anymore, but had they marketed it correctly with the right expectations set from the very beginning, it might have been a different story today. Most recently, cellulase is the newest thing on the market. and they use a laser fiber that is inserted underneath the surface of the skin through a small incision to target cellulite. Laser energy is then released to break the fibrous band and to melt a little bit of the surrounding fat and to help stimulate collagen production. TBD what the lifespan of this treatment is going to be. Everything great was once new, but not everything new is great. So I'm going to sit back and watch and see what happens, but that is one of the newest things on the market. Then you can obviously do microneedling when you go in deep with microneedling. I'm not talking about 2 millimeters. I'm talking down to like 7, 8 millimeters with a needle and radio frequency heat to help heat that tissue to stimulate collagen production. Maybe melt the fat surrounding the fibrous bands lightly. Can help with the appearance of the cellulite, but it's not as definitive or as great as subcising the fibrous band from the get-go. The second approach to cellulite, instead of breaking a band, is how can I stimulate collagen above that band so I can pucker up the skin instead of breaking the band completely. And here we use stimulants, like I mentioned, Sculptra. Sculptra can be used in a stretch mark the same way Sculptra in higher quantities can be used to help smoothen out the appearance of cellulite. And this works really well over time. But the problem with Sculptra, it can be cost prohibitive if you're using a lot of it. So just be aware to have the budget in mind. It's not going to be one vial and it's not going to be over one treatment if you have a lot of cellulite, okay? It's going to take 2 to maybe 4 treatments, and you might need 2 or 3 vials depending on the body surface area. And then you have other devices that come and go. There was a device known as VelaShape, which used radio frequency heat that you would massage on your skin to allow for circulation to happen and for collagen to get stimulated and for light fat to get melted. It didn't have great long-term benefits. If you are thinking of doing that, I understand if you want to do it the week before you want to go to the beach. It will have a temporary boosting effect where you will look good in the short run, so you can kind of fake it till you make it one day. But would I go and invest thousands of dollars into those treatments for long-term results? No, I wouldn't. And so this takes me now out of office into my home. What can I do for myself as a hack that can be helpful in the long run? I asked you guys on Instagram, do we believe that creams are gonna be helpful in reducing the appearance of cellulite or getting rid of it? And I'm really proud to say that today in 2024, you guys are way more educated than where we were 10, 15 years ago, where people were more naive and gullible to creams helping their cellulite. But skincare can be helpful to a certain extent, and we're going to talk about this in a hot second. But what's more important than skincare is also lifestyle. So things that you could do that are hacks, dry brushing. Why is that kind of helpful? Because it's allowing for lymphatic fluid to move around. So it's not staying sedentary and building up and making the dimples more pronounced. Self-tanners are interesting because they can help disguise the appearance of cellulite and even stretch marks. So self-tanners, getting a light self-tanner for you before you go to the beach can make you look smoother overall and minimize the appearance and the look of the stretch marks and the cellulite. Cutting out sodium or carbonated beverages, which is my weakness, is also beneficial to you because having high salt in your diet or carbonated beverages in your diet, usually they are higher in sodium. This apparently is at 0%, but usually they are higher in sodium, can cause you to get dehydrated and make the appearance of cellulite worse, and coffee as well, because that would lead to dehydration, alcohol as well. So those are little hacks that you can do to help yourself with the appearance of cellulite. So this leaves me now with creams and cellulite, okay? And the reality is no cream on the market is going to get rid of your cellulite, because now we know that a fibrous band under the surface of the skin is the real cause for the cellulite. But creams can help minimize the appearance of cellulite to a certain degree. And normally when you're thinking of cellulite creams, you're thinking of creams loaded with caffeine. But you have to really be careful how much caffeine is in there. And ideally, if you're going to use a cream for cellulite with caffeine, ideally it has another ingredient known as I cannot say this word because I have a lisp, xanthines, okay? This has a synergistic effect in causing constriction of your blood vessels that will minimize any sort of superficial swelling that you may or may not have. It will cause a temporary improvement in the appearance. If the placebo effect of the cream is working on you, God bless, placebo is a real thing, but I don't want you guys to be spending all of your money on skincare because of just caffeine and thinking that you're gonna actually treat your cellulite when you're not. Notable products on the market are the Sol de Janeiro Boom Boom Cream. It's not going to get rid of your cellulite, but it's going to help with the microcirculation and help boost a little bit your skin. Frank's Body Coffee Scrub. It's a hero blend of coffee, so obviously caffeine that you're using on your skin, but quite frankly, I think when you're using the scrub and you're moving things around, it's causing that lymphatic fluid to move almost like dry brushing. You also have firming creams on the market, which are not claiming to have any sort of caffeine in them, but they can help temporarily firm the appearance of your skin. If you're interested about them, we can do a video on firming creams as well. Now, in terms of stretch marks, anything you're doing for the fine lines and wrinkles on your face, you can use on your stretch marks. Go ahead and start exfoliating with glycolic acid. It is the strongest AHA out there. Use it on the stretch marks at night. Try to go every night and try to make sure that you're using that to help stimulate your collagen production. Number 2, you want to use a retinol. Retinols are key in helping your collagen boost itself. And if your stomach gets irritated, at least it's not your face and it's not exposed to the world. Don't go so wrong and strong over summer because you might be at the beach, but definitely starting in September, November, October, December, go ahead and start using a retinol on your body. If your stretch mark is relatively new, go ahead and use a hyaluronic acid serum. Not for the temporary plumping effect, that's not why, but for the inflammatory effect. I want you guys to cause an inflammatory reaction with a low molecular weight HA in order to allow it to heal better like a fresh wound. That's where HA can kind of be helpful to allow your stretch marks to potentially heal better. I've tried this anecdotally with some patients and I have seen some nice results, but we also did things in office, so I cannot definitively say that it was the HA alone. But when you think about hyaluronic acid at a low molecular weight, inciting an inflammatory response and using it on a stretch mark, maybe even after microneedling, it can help that stretch mark heal more efficiently. All right, and there you have it. Cellulite and stretch marks, how to think of it, how to deal with it. We can do a whole body roundup in another video if that is what you want. We can talk about firming creams in another video if that is what you want. But I felt the need to talk about stretch marks and cellulite because that is what you guys really wanted to learn about. But also, it is normal to have this on our bodies. And if it is truly affecting you, we have steps we can take to try to minimize their appearance. But it is normal to know that you can never fully get rid of it, but hopefully we can come to terms with loving ourselves. And with that, I wish you guys a beautiful Saturday, and I will see you guys next week when we do sunscreen roundups. Have a beautiful day.